Welcome to Taking the Rams by the Horns, a podcast that takes current affairs out of current affairs. This is a podcast in partnership with Sowetan Live. I'm your host, Rams Mabote.
There is a better way, and it is the DA way of government.
And so, the Godzilla aims to come back and make this my town a Jozile. You know, before I get to that detail, in 2026, Johannesburg will elect its 14th mayor in 26 years. In fact, I even think it's less than 26 years, right? We go back to 2005. It's actually in 21 years we are going to elect our 14th mayor in 21 years. It can't be crazier than that. And if you think about it, if we have 14 mayors with the terms that they're supposed to serve, they should take care of 70 years. Well, our 14 mayors will take care of 21 years. And 2 of those mayors served 16 of the 21 years. The past decade has been a merry-go-dance of mayors jumping in and off, and many of them not even finishing a cycle. You know the merry-go-round thingy. At least finish a cycle, man. Let's see you on the other side. Some guys have come in for a sneeze, right? Only 2 of the mayors of the metro completed their 5-year terms, and that's Amos Masondo, who actually completed 2 terms and a bonus. So he was there for 11 years. And then Pakstau was there for a full term of 5 years. That's, by the way, I think that's another distinction between the 2 gentlemen, other than their squeaky voices and their membership of the ANC, is that they completed a term as mayor. But actually, I think we should also try and remember what they did. When Masondo left the city of Joburg, the city was in some debt of 2.8 billion rand, and yet another rodent infestation because of the Pick It Up strike. Well, the rodents have since relocated to Alexandra, and Masondo himself has moved to the city of Cape Town in the National Council of Provinces, where he's quiet as a mouse, I must say. Tau was a busybody. Pakstau was a very busybody, guys. If you did not see him, you were not looking. He was everywhere. Here, there, everywhere, really. But, I think in truth, Joburg is going to remember him for leaving us with bicycle routes all over the city. All over the city there are bicycle routes that are moribund, by the way. Soon after that, like Masondo, Tau left us. He went to Cape Town, right? He rode off to Cape Town. And, today he spends most of his time negotiating with Trump not to close off the trade lanes, if you understand, between us and the USA. So that's what happened with those 2 mayors. I'm sure they will tell us about many other successes, but we remember that about them. When Tau left, was replaced by an EFF mayor masquerading as a DA member, Helen Mashaba. Now, Helen Mashaba was popular. People loved this guy. Everyone, except his own party, thought he was doing a great job. We truly enjoyed this guy. He came in, he did things, he cleaned up the city. He came up with this RSA campaign, which means let's work. Traffic lights were on again. People of 4 ways suddenly could get to work 10 minutes early, which still meant that they spent 1.5 hours in traffic, but at least they could get to work 1.5 hours early, rather 10 minutes earlier than the original time. He strengthened the municipality that, for a change, we had a multi-party government. He strengthened multi-party governance, which was battling in this country everywhere you go, even today with this GNU, right? But RSA did not work because Helen Zille was not happy with this fellow. He felt he was in the pockets of the EFF, which EFF did not help by telling people that they have an EFF mayor called Helen Mashava. So, we know what happened, right? He took action. as in he left after 3 years and formed Action SA. Now, guess what? He's also in Cape Town as a mayor. I mean, maybe there's something about the president saying we should learn something from Cape Town, right? Well, since Mashaba left, there has been a festival of mayors, none of which served more than 19 months. None since Mashaba left. In fairness, the next three after Mashaba, that's Jeff Makubo, Jolly D, Matongo, and Mpho Moerane, they died in office. So we can't say anything wrong about them. They didn't finish term because of death, and we shall leave it at that. I do not make fun of dead people. I do not make fun of death, so I move on. In 2021, the DA assumed the mayorship again and appointed the likable Dr. Mpho Phalatse. Like Mashaba before her, she misread the DA script. She worked well with other parties. She went into townships and did amazing work. She spoke to parties that DA never really liked. She did things that were not expected of a DA mayor. So soon, that is 13 months later, her posh accent was shown the door by the party. And then the circus started. Because I must say, even though she didn't stay long, there was not much circus in her time. Then we had Dada Morero coming in September 30 to October 25 in 2022. He left and Dr. Mpho Phalatse came back October 26, 2022 to January 26, 2023. That's like 3 months. Followed by one Thapelo Ahmad. Do you remember him, guys? Do you remember Thapelo Ahmad? That guy who, thought he had swag. He thought he was like a Malcolm X of South Africa, kind of, right? More so that he was also Muslim. And, he had this haircut and, he had these suits. I mean, he wore a brown suit at his inauguration, which I thought is strange for a politician. But I digress. Thapelo Ahmad was there 27 January to 24 April, in spite of the fact that at some point he was talking big figures, which I'll come to at some point later. Followed by Kabelo Kwamanda, 14 May 2023 to 16 August 2024. And then Dada Morero is back, 16 August to present. Now, let's go through these guys that came after Mpho Phalatse. Pardon me. Upon assuming office, Ahmad, whose claim to fame was being the first Muslim mayor of Johannesburg since 1897, promised to take Joburg off the Eskom grid. He was prepared, or reported rather, to be raising $9.5 billion US for this project. Well, what do we know? He was soon off the mayoral grid, and Joburg continues to have erratic power supply. Ahmad was replaced by a fellow comrade of the unknown Al-Jamaa party, Kabelo Kwamanda. Safe to say, the second ever Muslim mayor of Johannesburg, in more than 200 years. In fairness to Kwamanda, he was more than that. He was actually also a golfer.
The moments that made me want to closely affiliate with the sport. We all know that it's a very big tourist attraction as well, because we have players from all over the world who are looking forward.
He was also a budding financial services provider, having started a funeral scheme in Soweto, for which later he faced criminal charges. He claims it was work he did as a young person trying to change the lives of his people. He does not necessarily deny that some money disappeared, but it was a revolutionary act, our good former mayor said. Right? I remember him being asked about his educational qualifications, and his response was, let's just say I'm the black version of John Steenhuisen. Which meant, if you don't know, I don't have matric. Right? But sadly, he only lasted 15 months in office, and taking the rams by the horns has been poorer for that. This guy was the second most prominent contributor to this podcast after Donald Trump. Go back to Spotify, go to the audio podcast before we went visual. I had Tavelo Kwamanda in my podcast more often than any other person. He was the only guy who beat him to it was Donald Trump. So I've been sad since he's been gone. I've been battling with content. So Dada Morero made his comeback already. He has delivered. The other day he had a press conference to tell us that Bree Street will open at some point. How's that for delivery, right? A whole press conference in the middle of the street to say this street will open in due course. That is, of course, 2 years after they missed deadline. He's still in office. I hope, just for stability, I hope he stays in office until the elections next year. Also for his sake, because I don't see how the ANC is bringing him back. Even though I don't know who the ANC is going to bring as the mayor candidate. Things are not looking good for the party. So let's talk about 2026, since Helen Zille has now announced, that she's coming in, and the DA has endorsed her. I think she was vying against 3 or 2 other candidates. I don't know who they were. We all knew the day they told us that she's interested in this job that the DA is going to, we all knew that Helen Zille is going to elect Helen Zille for this post, right? And she is the DA. Let's face it. Who do you think in the DA would vote against Helen Zille? Who? Think about one person, right? So I thought about it and I wondered, won't the strategy for the ANC also be good to go fetch somebody who was a mayor in a different town and not Johannesburg to come and contest here? Because, I do find it strange that somebody who was mayor in Cape Town, City of Cape Town, comes to contest here. Of course, he'll tell us, yeah, but I grew up here. I grew up in Hillbrow. She's got pictures showing us, her in a mother's kitchen next to a welcome Dover stove, and she's cooking there, portraying hardship. The Hillbrow she lived in, it's not the same Hillbrow now. There was no hardship then. In fact, there were no black people there in that Hillbrow. But I digress. So I think I would suggest the ANC maybe looks at a former mayor who did, let's say, well in a town previously. Like take a Danny Jordan, right, who was mayor in the city of Nelson Mandela. I don't really know that he succeeded there, but I do know that post he faced charges of rape and of corruption, and now under SAFA, we don't pay players, and the national coach of Bafana Bafana gets paid more than 10 times what the national coach of the under-20s gets. Like, that's success, right? That's a guy who does things differently. Maybe the ANC should call him in, or maybe Noma Indian Feket. Do you remember her? She was actually a mayor in the city of Cape Town, and I think she was the last ANC mayor in the city of Cape Town. Well, she then left. The party has never recovered. I think now it's a party that's not even a 10% party in Cape Town. She left, and her punishment was being sent to the United States of America, to Washington as our ambassador there, where at some point she accused one of her aides of witchcraft. Bring her back. Bring Noma India back. She's probably the right person to run this town. This is a multi-billion rand economy. We need somebody strong. I think, say all you like, the DA would argue that's why they're bringing Helen Zille, former mayor, former premier. They're saying to her, come, this is a very important city. I think Johannesburg, if I know well, is probably the 5th or 6th biggest economy in Africa. So it follows other countries like South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Botswana, and then Johannesburg, the city, is an economy that is so huge. We can't have anybody who's been running it, really running it. So we need strong people to come into this town, right? But before you think I'm singing praises for Helen Zille, far from it, right? This is the same person who extols the virtues of colonialism, that, it was not completely bad. There were great things. So I would say if she won next year, you guys forget about this thing of yours of changing street names and moving statues and stuff like that. In fact, she may bring statues of people we don't even know, like a Delaray, like this guy was good for us. We need to have, or we may even have, whatever. We may have Mahlambandlovu being renamed Queen Elizabeth House, right? This is the same person who destroyed a bunch of black people she brought into the party. Musi Maimane, Mpopalazi, Lindwe Mazibuko, Helen Mashaba. She brought these people in and she got rid of them. She actually even gave Dr. Mampela Rampela a kiss of death. Like she kissed her in public and she never recovered politically. So I am not extolling the virtues of Helen Zille at all. And even worse, she can't dance and she speaks bad Xhosa. So frankly, I don't think she should be mayor of this town if you ask me. But if there's no challenge, there'll be trouble. And on that note, I'm glad that the Patriotic Alliance has a big challenge for her. Kenny Kunene. I mean, yes, I was surprised that even after suspending the man, they still endorse him as their candidate to be mayor of Johannesburg. And the argument is that, no, but, he was already a candidate before we suspended him, so those two things are not connected. Sorry? Anyway, but I think he's a perfect person to challenge Helen, right? Think about it. He also has a journalistic background. Helen always reminds us of how she was the first person to expose the death of Steve Biko. Well, Ken is also in the media. If he doesn't write, at least he transports journalists, Occasionally he'll be found in the wrong place, where he says things like he met somebody when he saw him. I don't know what that meant, but yeah, we know he's involved in the media and he does amazing stuff. And like Helen, he's got an affinity to sea life, although with him it's sushi on people. But he's got affinity to sea life. So it makes sense for him. And he's a guy who keeps time. Twice on both hands, right? Not on his arms this time, this way and this way. So I think Helen may just meet her match in this man. But I honestly think that you must watch this space. I think Herman Mashaba is going to come and contest the mayorship of Johannesburg, although I'm not sure whether he wants to risk leaving Cape Town, because at least I think he's guaranteed keeping his job as MP then. I don't know if he will win Joburg on his own as Action SA, although I think Johannesburg, like this country, is going to be stuck with a coalition government for a long time. The town has not done very well with one party since the ANC lost that opportunity. Will Musi Maimane come here? I don't know. I like him. He's a homeboy, by the way, boy from Dobsonville. But I'm not sure, especially now he's Dr. Musi Maimane. Do you want to be running Johannesburg, really, when you could be speaking better English in the National Assembly? I'm not sure. But I think he may just contest. But who are going to be the surprises? Who are people that we're not looking at that may just contest Helen Zille for mayorship of Johannesburg? Kabelo Komanda. I think he's going to come. I think Kabelo is going to say, now you guys must take me back and I will show you what I can do for this town. We could even have, maybe because we are that type of city that attracts that kind of luck, I wouldn't be shocked that, say, a Rulani Mokoena decides, I've done so well in football, I may as well run Johannesburg. And why not? I would take him. Just put the microphone away from him. The man doesn't stop talking when he's got a microphone in front of him. So we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who you think is going to be mayor of Johannesburg. But I know this for certain. It's going to be fun and games. I just hope for one thing, that whoever we elect as mayor, for crying out loud, must last more than 3 years. Get to finish a term, right? We must last longer than the hijacked buildings in this town, because they last. Hijacked buildings in this town last. I hope whoever comes here has got the stamina and the support of other people to last. But your guess is as good as mine. From me, Rems Mabote, goodbye and God bless.